Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Thanks for joining another episode of the Profit Able podcast. Today, I am so fortunate to be joined by Julia Stapleton. Julia, hi, how are you?
I'm well, thanks for having me.
I am really interested in this discussion we're going to have today. We kind of chatted a little bit a couple of weeks ago about your business, and you do frequency DNA activations. So tell the audience what that means and who you help and how you help them.
All right. Well, DNA activations is something that is out there that people don't really know much about. Basically, in the simpler terms, we have our normal DNA that everyone's familiar with, the 12 strands of DNA. But what the scientists have discovered a long time ago is that there is also junk DNA that's connected and attached to our DNA that people aren't really, they don't really know what to do with it. And what they have discovered is it's like dormant DNA. So I think there's like an additional 40 strands or something that's kind of um, imposed over the usual DNA that everyone's familiar with. So um, that's why they refer to it as junk DNA because they don't really know what to do with it. But what has been discovered since is it's more like a dormant DNA and what some refer to as kind of like your higher self DNA. So whenever your normal human DNA is active, the other one is dormant. Whenever you activate your higher self DNA, it kind of overwrites your
Oh,
human
wow.
DNA. So basically, that's kind of like your channel to the source, really. Um, it just helps you unplug from the 3D world, from the physical world, and really connect to the overall energy because everything is energy, everything is source, everything is one. Doesn't matter what you're looking at, all the humans, all the animals, all the plants, items like everything is energy, everything has atoms or is made out of atoms, everything vibrates, therefore everything is energy, everything is a vibration. And vibration is the same thing as frequency. It's the interchangeable words because you'll probably hear me use them both throughout the conversation, but I'm talking about the same thing. A vibration is the same thing as frequency. Energy is different because energy is what I don't even know how to explain it. It's something that goes with the frequency, and the higher the frequency, the higher the energy, and vice versa. But it's not the same thing. So frequency is the vibration of the atoms and everything within it. So in other words, table is made out of atoms. It has a unique vibration or unique frequency. Human body has multiple vibrations because we're made out of so many different things. So everything is frequency. And what happened late last year was I've gone through an awakening in a way, and a part of that was a divine download of information about how to do these DNA activations. So how to turn on different parts of your higher self DNA to help you match the vibration to whatever it is you're wanting to manifest. And the funny and the strange thing about the fact that it comes to me in a way of frequencies because different people do it differently. Some people have they do maybe through music, some people do through light language, you might have heard that one.
Yep.
Some people can do DNA activations through the use of sacred geometry and whatever else. So to me, it specifically came in the form of frequencies because I actually have over 20 years career in telecommunications. So it's all in
Okay.
tech and it's all about frequencies. It's all about frequencies of technology, internet, mobile signals, like that's what it is. And when I had that epiphany and put the two and two together, I've realized that this is a way that I can bridge the tech world or the physical world and something that we understand and use on a daily basis to a spiritual world and connect the two together because what I find often, and I was the same way as well, my mind is very logical. When I would learn about manifesting things and I would hear people talk about be a vibrational match to money or your desire or become whatever you want to create, that never really made sense to me. Like the fact that you need to be in that vibration made sense, But how to do it and what the vibration is, how do you find the vibration, how do you tune into it, that never made sense to me. And when I've had that epiphany about the frequencies and things, I've realized that um, the frequencies, no matter what they are, work in exactly the same way. Whether it's music frequency, whether it's a mobile phone, like, cell phone signal frequency, whether it's
Right.
internet, they all work the same way. Like the radio. Radio is also frequency. We have a tower that transmits the signal. We have a medium that it travels through, and we have a receiver that translates it and plays music or whatever else. And all you need is these three components to work in their own way: transmit, receive, and a medium for it to go through. So I had that thought that maybe I could use the frequencies in energetic way to pass them from person to person. And what if I could send information directly into person's DNA to activate something within it that the person logically or from their mind just can't sort of crack? It's like from outside, they can't really figure out how to get into that vibration. What if I could go straight into the DNA and actually activate it within their body at their core level? And it's like an inside out approach. So it really helps them level up in a sense to really elevate themselves, and it'd be easier for them to get into the frequency of what they want to create. And then with my mentoring, I can also teach them then how to expand it and really take more advantage of it by using their mind to add more to it and amplify it and really go bigger with it as well. So that's kind of like what I do and what DNA or frequency DNA activations are. I really just as a channel for frequencies, like I see them in my mind. So when I'm helping someone create a desire for them, like say they want a new car or a relationship or whatever, I really tune into the experience of that desire. And in my mind, it's like a picture that's then imprinted in my mind. And as an artist, because I'm also an artist, I just paint it on the paper, basically just copy an image from my head onto a paper. And that's how I encode the frequencies. That's my medium for transmitting it. And then I send it to a person, and then their body, their DNA, receives it and decodes it, and then activates within it what it needs to do to then help a person get into that vibrational match.
Okay. There's so many questions. All right, let me go back a little bit, because when you started out, you were talking about the junk, quote unquote, DNA that we have, and that's kind of like your higher self. So it sounds to me like it's almost like we all have access to special radio stations, for lack of a better analogy, and that some of these activations, whether it be the sacred geometry or whether it be your frequency activations or whatever, kind of allow us to tune into those radio stations?
Well, you always have the ability to tune into it. It's just you may not understand how. So
Right.
if you're
Okay.
new to it, if you haven't really experienced it before, you don't even know where to start, DNA activations help it be more natural. So
Okay.
um, whether someone really is into this work, whether they completely don't understand what's going on, it will work for everyone. The next step of it is for the person to devote to whatever opportunities come their way, so that when the
Right.
manifestation comes to them, it's then their choice whether they accept it or not. So that's like the next step in it. So those
Okay.
things work for everyone. It's just not everyone then takes the next step.
Okay.
So everyone has that within them, and everyone has the ability to turn into them, whether with the frequency activations, whether by using their mind if they have learned to do it, or even both are more potent and more effective if you use both. But either way is fine.
Okay. So I think that answers one of my questions that I had, which was, do you have to have the right mindset? Do you have to 100% like be in the state of, I know this is going to work, for it to work for you? Or is it just that it works to a different degree depending upon how much you're working with it.
Yeah, it works in different ways. So I'll just give you a few examples to make it a little bit easier to understand. Let's say, for example, someone has a car and the car is not reliable. So
Right.
they just want a well-working car. So you might be doing DNA activations for that person to help them have a well-running car. So in the morning they wake up, the car works, but their mindset is that this car always breaks down. So by the end of the day, they have some sort of a problem with the car. So in other words, you might be helping them manifest a well-working car or fixed car, but then they, with their mindset, keep breaking it.
Okay.
So it does work. The car does get fixed, so it does work. But then they manifest their own thing on top of it.
Yes.
So for it to have long-lasting effects, for it to really expand and really go bigger, it does help if your mindset is on board with it as well.
Okay. So it's not that your mindset is needed for it to work, it's your mindset is needed so that you don't counteract it.
That's
Really.
right. So you don't go backwards with it.
Okay. Cool. All right. So I have to ask you, I was looking at your social media and I
Mm-hmm.
saw one of your activations out there, and you mentioned in the comments that these DNA frequencies work for almost every major area of life, right? They work for health, they work for wealth, they work for relationships, they work for business, they work for whatever. Is there any area where it's more impactful or less impactful?
No, there isn't, because if you look at it this way, your mind is always manifesting something. So your mind is always creating. It cannot not create. Anything you see around you, the computer, the microphone, a bunch of flowers that's on your cabinet there,
Right.
every single piece, every single thing has once been created in someone's mind. So nothing exists unless it was first seen in mind or in someone's imagination. Then it was created into physical 3D reality. So going sort of having that understanding, DNA activations do work with your mind. So whatever your mind is working on, which is absolutely everything, if it's not focused on 3D reality, it's focused on a dream or it's focused on imagination, it's focused somewhere, it's always focused
Mhm.
on something somewhere. So your DNA, in other words, are helping with your mind and with the creation. So there isn't anything more or less impactful, but I guess to a person, it would be impactful if it's something that they may not have been able to manifest yet, or an area in their life where they've always struggled, or something that really amplifies or has, like, as people would refer to, a quantum leap in their life. Like, for
Yeah,
example, if someone's been single for a very long time, and then within a span of, I don't know, a year or 2 years, they're happily married, they have children and all of that stuff.
right.
So in that sense, it would be very impactful for someone because maybe it's been a difference to them compared to their past or their patterns or something like that. So, but that's very individual.
Okay. All right. So one more clarifying question, and then we'll get to the heart of our discussion. So can you activate multiple areas of your life at one time, or does your body really have to process? I know that your brain has lots going on all the time, but you can only really focus on one thing at a time. No matter how much we think we multitask, it's really
Mhm.
task switching really fast. It's not
Mhm.
actually multitasking. Can you activate more than one area of your life at once, or does your body process one and then you have to go back and activate another?
Now you can activate everything all at once if you want to, but then yeah, you do need to catch up with processing it and integrating it. Because if your mind keeps switching between different things, you might, like, you try to juggle this ball and then this one drops. So it's like your mind keeps going backwards and forwards. And if a lot of those areas are really like going deep with a lot of triggers, it might be a lot for your mind to try and navigate it and really stay in the vibration where you want it to be. Because for those things, the things that go much deeper, you do need to do a lot of additional mindset work to go with it. So if you're trying to really focus your mind and overcome certain things in one area, which is a big trigger for you, Well, the other one, like you might not have enough energy to try and focus on everything,
Yeah.
and therefore you're not really giving each due attention. However, if certain things can be related, then that's a different thing. Like, for example, sometimes I might do activations, and for example, someone wants to maybe heal some sort of a health issue, but also lose weight at the same time. Well, in the activation, we can do both, because you can experience living life in a perfect body, um, like at the same time.
Right. Right.
So
Right.
it's more about experiencing the desire that you have, which is probably what we'll talk about later. It's having that experience in your mind as if it's actually happening in your physical world, but you can combine several things into it together. So you can imagine yourself being in the perfect body, and that means you have no health issues, and you might be in your like whatever weight you want to be.
Right. Right. Because they're
Or
interrelated, kind of.
yeah, or you might be trying to create a trip overseas, but also some sort of a contract. Well, you can imagine having that contract taking you overseas on a trip.
Mhm.
So you can combine certain things together if they go together. But if you want a new business, you want a relationship, you also want I don't know, a mansion or whatever. Yes, they can all happen together, but they may also come from different sources. So they may or may not be related. And it may be that it's easier to manifest or, work on them one thing at a time.
Yeah.
It also keeps
Because
your
it,
mind.
it would, wouldn't it probably be difficult for you to focus, especially if you're trying to really up level in all of those areas, to focus
Mhm.
the energy in all of those spots at once?
Yeah, yeah. And I have experienced that where there was just a lot going on, and it's like I was creating this and I was creating this, and then I just had to stop and just focus on one thing, because you really a big part of it when you create from your mind is really being in the vibration of that desire. And that means not just like meditating on it for a few minutes. It actually means being all day, every day in that vibration. So if you're hopping from one vibration of one thing to another vibration of another thing, well, you're not in that vibration enough. Like, it depends on what you're trying to create as well. Sometimes a quick thought is enough to create something, and I have experienced that too. In other cases, especially when things go a lot deeper, it just takes a while to really bring your body to that vibration and stay in that vibration without changing your mind back to focusing on the lack of that thing. So if you're swapping from one thing to the other and not really staying in that vibration, and also keep hopping, to the lack, then to that vibration, then the lack of, and so on, and then you do the same thing to the other one, well, your mind is still creating, but then it's creating the thing, and then it's creating the lack of the thing, then it's creating this thing, then it's creating the lack of that thing. So you're creating contradicting things for everything, and not really, I guess, in a sense, it just gets all mixed up.
Yeah.
It's not clear what it is you're manifesting.
Well, and I think that that's a problem with manifesting generally for a lot of people, right? Because they get okay, here's what I want. I want the house, or I want the relationship, or I want the bank account. And then they fall into the habit of the doubt or the unworthiness or the whatever, and they begin to manifest not having it because
That's
they can't keep their focus in one place. That's
right.
probably true of many different types of manifesting, right?
Yeah, yeah. And whenever you like, if you have experienced things that in your past that you have manifested, and then certain things that you have tried but they just haven't come through yet, you can go back and analyze how you were feeling, how you were thinking about it, and you'll probably actually see those patterns. The ones that have come up, you're probably detached from it because you've probably been confident that it was going to happen. You were in that vibration already. You weren't focusing on not having it. Your mind didn't go into lack, and that's why that came to you really quickly, versus the other ones where you might be in that vibration for a little bit and then you start wondering when it's going to happen. So whenever you think that, your mind is now focused on lack, because if you already had that thing, you wouldn't be wondering when it's going to happen, because you already
Right.
have it. So whenever you're wondering when or if or whatever, that's always in lack. That's why your mind keeps going backwards and forwards, and it keeps delaying it and delaying it and delaying it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's do an example to help everybody who's listening. Let's say that because I work with a lot of people who are having relationship issues. So let's look at relationships. And if you, let's say you're even having relationship problems in more than one area, you know, you don't have the romantic relationship that you want, but maybe you're also having conflict with your immediate family members or with colleagues at work or something. How can this DNA frequency activation help you to manifest the types of relationships and types of experience that you want to have?
So with the DNA activations, what I would do is, well, firstly, I would have to actually have a conversation with the person to see what, like, where it's coming from, exactly what's coming up for them, because it's usually some sort of a trigger or some sort of an emotion that comes up. And often in many relationships, it's the same one. It just manifests itself in different ways with different people.
Exactly.
And often it's something about, self-worth, or you trying to please someone because you think that's going to make you more, meaningful, more worthy, and all those kinds of things. So um, in cases like that, I would really dig a little bit deeper to see what's coming up. And before we do any activations, so that I can actually focus activation on the right area of what they're trying to create, I would actually do an exercise with them and teach them how to neutralize emotions. That's something that's been probably most impactful for me when I started learning how to do this. And because it already straight away minimizes the amount of stress you experience in your
Right.
life, because it applies to emotions, it applies to fears around things, fears around doing something, fear around money, fear around the conversations, emotions, triggers, all the monkey chatter in your mind, because like all the thoughts and the talker in your mind can be neutralized in the same way as an emotion too. And the reason we do that is because a body is not meant to store emotions. It's what happens is we experience an emotion around something, and instead of letting it flow through the body, we attach a story to it and we make it mean something about something. So it gets trapped in the body. Then the next time something similar comes up, the trigger comes up again, and we add that emotion to it, amplifying it. Then the story grows bigger and bigger and starts adding other emotions to it. So, like, I don't know, there could be emotions attached to it, like really sadness, depression around self-worth, not being loved or not being understood. And then it might also create a story around people always being this way, that you can't find the people that are, acting towards you in a certain way. Then you might start attaching stories that you also can't bring in clients in your business because people don't relate to you. So it really expands bigger and bigger.
Right.
And with stored emotions and energy in the body, it then starts generating toxicity, and it might be in the form of stress, which is one of the most common ones. It could be various chronic illnesses, pains, migraines, whatever else. Could be even developing into more serious diseases and illnesses. So, in other words, stored emotions in the body are not a good thing. They really need to be cleared. And sometimes people will go to like an energy healer, or they'll do something, and the energies will get cleared in that moment. But then what happens next? The next time the trigger comes up, it gets stored again. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not like a long-term solution. In other words, we work on learning how to let the energy flow through your body so it doesn't get trapped in there. And that's by becoming the observer of your body, the observer of your emotion, not being in the body, not being in it experiencing things, but really be the observer, watching what happens with your body and understanding that this is something your body's going through. Emotion in, emotion out, gone, and that's it. And what you would be finding then is, whenever you're experiencing an emotion, like for example, let's talk about something just silly, like your husband always leaves dirty dishes in the sink and that just annoys you. So that annoying feeling, the emotion, we clear that. We just observe that annoyance going through the body. Next time you see dirty dishes in the sink, you might not even feel that trigger anymore.
Yeah.
And then with something bigger, you might feel it a few times, but then every time it'll be quicker and quicker to neutralize. And at some point, you won't be really feeling any triggers around that particular subject anymore. So you can see how that really makes life much simpler, easier, and more enjoyable when you don't then attach yourself to emotions, you don't attach things to stories or stories to things, and you just simply see things as is without affecting you, without affecting your mindset, without affecting your energy. And then that would be the first step that we would work on. Do you have any questions around that?
Well, I mean, that's just amazing. So I can see that taking some of my clients, for example, also some of my friends, but I won't pick on them. Um, you could have someone who feels like, they're never going to find a romantic partner. No one ever loves them. No one ever, comes back for second, third, fourth dates that they go out with. Um, and that same person is struggling with a family member that they feel like takes advantage of them, doesn't listen to them, doesn't value anything but their labor, doesn't value them as a human being. And really, those two things can be very closely related because it may be an emotional trigger of I'm not good enough
Yeah.
behind both. They seem like different situations with very different people, but in fact, the emotional response behind both is actually coming from the same place. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, yeah. So in cases like that, what we would probably do is, let's say, I would teach them how to neutralize the emotions so then they can spend some time just practicing around any random things, around anything with their life, but more specifically around those situations that they can recall. Let's say they can recall their last conversation or something like that, and they bring up the emotion that they were experiencing it and neutralize it. Sometimes there are different layers. Sometimes you think, say, the first layer is anger or annoyance, then there will be another layer underneath, then there will be another layer underneath, and probably
Yeah.
get to that self-worth or something.
Yeah.
Um, so they really would go through and work on those as they come up, as they want to recall from their memory so they can clear as much as possible. And then when we figure out what the underlying thing is, which is probably that self-worth. Like, I mean, we don't have to spend weeks or months trying to figure it out. At the end of the day, we can work on things layer by layer, but things like that will usually become apparent pretty quickly, like what that common thread is in those situations. And then I would say do an activation on particularly healing that within the person. So
Right.
then that gets healed from their core outside, and then, or like from inside out, and then their mind from outside in does those specific situations and then clears the emotions as they come up so that they can let the emotions flow through the body. So it's kind of like inside out approach.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I love this. Okay. So you also mentioned that this can like apply to business and finances and everything. And talking specifically about healing these emotions, I think a lot of people, let's just start with money generally, have a lot of anxieties or um, maybe unworthiness there too around money, right? They want to be financially stable, they want to be successful, they want to not have any money worries, but there's something that is preventing them from manifesting that
Mhm.
life, right? And you said that sometimes, and correct me if I got this wrong, but sometimes bigger things or things that come up over and over may require more work than
Mhm.
something that, maybe a smaller thing or something that doesn't happen as often. So let's take the example of someone who really is trying to manifest financial security. They're living a very insecure, unstable life financially right now. And the anxiety hits them every time they open a bill that they know that they either can barely pay or can't pay, because they don't have enough money in their checking account right now. And that's, something that happens, and it has happened to a lot of us. How would, is it important to clear the anxiety first, or is it important to acknowledge the trigger? Is it the anxiety that has to be dealt with?
So that usually all comes from a story.
Okay.
And it's not that anxiety is an emotion that results from something that your mind is trying to create. So when we have money stories or money blocks, those kinds of things, they come from a meaning that we have put onto money. So when you think about money, it's just a thing. It's just something that people have created.
Right.
It doesn't have any meaning apart from the fact that it's a piece of paper or a coin or whatever, and it's used for an exchange. Before we had money, we didn't put any meaning onto money because money didn't mean anything to us.
Right.
If you had an amnesia and you woke up tomorrow with an amnesia and you didn't know what money was or what people use to exchange goods for goods or value for value, you wouldn't have any meaning around money. You wouldn't have any money blocks because there's no story around it. So it's usually the story that we create associated with money, and we're making it mean something. So for some people, it might be, for a lot of people, it means security because money means safety. Well, money doesn't really mean that, but we are making it mean safety. So really, we would neutralize those feelings first. So the need for safety, or the stories around money being safety, or money being control, means that we're within control because, well, we aren't. As
Yeah.
we've experienced over the last 3 years, we're not in control of anything. If you think you have a good job that pays well and is secure, people have been losing those jobs left, right, and center. So you're not within control of anything. And it's first understanding that and really neutralizing the emotions associated with it, the fears that come up, like what comes up for you when you don't have money. Is it fear? Is it disappointment, like you're a failure? All of those things. And around money, there's usually a lot. So this would be a process that someone would go through. Like it wouldn't probably happen on one go over.
Right.
It would probably require several weeks of work because there's just so much that comes up for people. It's something that's instilled with us for many, many years. It's the stories we make. It's like our experiences add on to it. So there's a lot. And we would neutralize the emotions around it. We would neutralize the need for control because being in control means safe. So
Right.
having money means you're in control, which means you're safe, but it doesn't mean any of that. We're just creating that story. So it's really neutralizing those needs for control. And then just really being neutral around anything and everything so that you can allow the source or the divine guidance to put you on the path to create it.
Right.
Because while ever your mind is trying to control things, while ever your mind is having, usually with money, it's focusing on lack. Whenever
Right.
you're trying to manifest money, it's always focusing on not having it. So while ever your mind is not neutral and is focused on all of these stories, all of these emotions, all of this lack, you just keep repeating the same stories. So it's especially around money, and for many people around relationships, but yeah, money, you would have to spend a fair bit of time like purging all of that old stuff, all of the old beliefs, before you can really be neutral around it and then start creating things from a pure place. And that's when things just come to you.
Okay. So would you do different activations to clear those energies or those beliefs first, and then do a different activation for what you really want? Or is it all part of one process?
So yeah, I'll probably do different ones. So with the activations, you're really also focusing on what you want to create. So in other words, not on the lack of, but what we want to create. So for example, we might start on so the feeling of safety, because they're trying to control things with money. So we would probably do an activation for helping them have their body feel at peace, secure, and all that stuff. Then we might be doing an activation to create a certain amount of money. Then we might create an activation for a house or something like that, or
Okay.
calling in ideal clients, you know. So like we might first do activations to help with purging and like really focus on the state that we want to be in, like what state, what vibration we want to be in. And then we focus on creating something, whether it's something material or whatever.
Okay. So I want to kind of do a step-by-step example, if you'll humor me, because I think that this is really interesting and maybe this will help people who haven't seen some of the work that I've seen on your social media to understand better. So I'm going to use myself as an example. I'm getting ready to move. So I don't have any negative feelings about this. This is a choice that I've made voluntarily. I'm happy about it, but I'm looking for the ideal house. And so I'm going to come to you, Julia, and say, I want you to help me with an activation to find my ideal house. And so, first of all, does it matter that I have thoughts already from things that I've seen, like looking online at houses about what I want? Or is that good? Is that bad? Or is that indifferent?
Well, you said you don't have anything, any underlying stories or anything about finding your ideal house. What about things like availability of the house or needing it by a certain time? Like, is there anything coming up around that?
Well, there kind of is, just because one of the reasons that I'm moving is to be closer to my dad, who is older and not in great health, so that I can be close to help with him. So the faster, the better, but I don't have a specific date.
Mhm. Yeah, so one of the things, like without knowing more detail, one of the things I would probably focus on is the need to speed up the process. So in other words, neutralize the emotion about when you need it
Yeah.
by. And the trick with that is you're completely neutral when you don't care if you even ever move. So you
Okay.
don't feel any difference whether you stay, whether you move now, whether you move in a year's time. So when you're completely neutral and just accept it as it will be what it will be, then from that neutral place, you can imagine yourself in that perfect house, close to your father, him probably having him being in good health and you know things like that. So you two enjoying time together, you enjoying your new place, you enjoying the new area that you live in, those kinds of things. But also another trick with that is to stay in that vibration, you need to be happy having experienced it in your mind. So
Yeah.
whatever you experienced it in your mind, you are in that experience. To your mind, it doesn't matter whether you're experiencing it in physical world or in your dream or in your imagination. To our mind, it's all the same. It's all reality to our mind. So you are in the vibration of your desire when you are experiencing it. So in other words, when you already live in that house for a year and you're settled in, you're used to it, how do you feel then? Like obviously you don't feel anxious about a move. You don't feel anxious about it coming up at the right time. You don't feel excited and jumping up and down about it either because it's already normal. You're
Yeah.
neutral about it. It feels normal. You see certain things, you smell certain things, you feel a certain way, like content, at peace, however you want to feel in your new place. So being in that experience, using all of your senses in your mind, and then kind of staying in that vibration without then thinking, oh, I need it by next Friday because I really have to move. I've got the, plane tickets booked or whatever.
Right.
So without focusing your mind on lack, staying in that vibration, staying in that experience. Because if you are already experiencing that life, if you're already living that life, you are not worried about it happening at the right time. So in
Okay.
other words, it's then staying in that vibration. And that's what detachment is.
Yeah.
Detachment isn't stopping thinking about something and not, like you put your desire out there and then you forget about it, and then you don't think about it ever. That's not what detachment is, because whatever your mind is then focused on the lack, that's not detached. A true
Right.
detachment is a vibration of already having it, because you no longer want it, because you can't desire something you already have. You usually desire it before you have it. Like you want to eat a piece of chocolate. You want to eat it, but while you're eating it, you're no longer in the desire of chocolate because you already have it. You're now
Yeah.
in contentment, enjoyment, those kinds of feelings.
I think that's a really important point because we talk about detachment all the time when it comes to manifesting and when it comes to emotions and, business and everything else. But detachment really is going ahead and being in the positive emotion of having the end result. It's not thinking about it, because that's, I think a lot of people get confused and they think if I'm detached, I just have put it out of my mind. It's not even there. But that's not right, is it?
That's right. And then they start worrying, like every time that thought comes up around the subject, then they start worrying about it because they still don't have it, but the thought came up, but they're supposed to not think about it. So then they create a different thing around it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really just being in the state of already having your end result. And the other thing that the thoughts that came up for me in the past as well, and I see people ask this question a lot as well, is the common things that you hear is be the CEO or be the person who you want
Hmm.
to be and act
Right.
as if you're that already. And people interpret it in the way, okay, I need to hire a team right now. I need to um, have certain, live in a certain house, or you drive the car. So you just go test driving the car so you can get into that experience.
Carry the right
But
handbag, wear
you
the right clothes. Yeah.
Yeah, but you lack the resources in the physical 3D. So that only amplifies the fact that you don't have it, because you might say, "Let's drive a car for a few minutes," and then your mind straight away focuses on not having it anymore because it was only a very short experience compared
Hmm.
to not experiencing it. But in your mind, you can experience anything at any time. You can leave that experience in your mind and stay in that vibration. You don't need any physical resources for it. You've got unlimited resources in your mind. So the easiest way to be in the vibration of already having something is by using your mind, but only using it from a pure place without all of those anxious and negative emotions attached to it, so that the frequency is clear of the desire that you want to manifest as the end result.
Okay. I love this. All right. So let's get back to the example for a second. So I've
Mhm.
finally gotten rid of this. I have to move, I'm completely detached. I'm living a very peaceful, satisfied, happy existence in my mind, in my new ideal place.
Mhm.
What do you do to help me bring that house into existence?
Yep. I would do a similar thing to what you're already doing in your mind, but from the inside out, from the DNA level. So I would tune into that desire that you have, and I would encode the frequencies into my artwork, and I would send it to you so that your DNA then activates that within you and making it a little bit easier and more natural for you to stay in that vibration.
Okay, so I've seen some of your artwork. So some of your comments on that artwork were it works whether you look at it for a couple of minutes or whether you look at it for a long time. But
Mhm.
obviously, the longer you look at it, is it the faster it works or the deeper it encodes, or what is the difference between the amount of time spent?
It like when you look at it, you receive, like, your mind recognizes it and your
Yep.
body then activates it within itself. So it doesn't matter how long you look at it, but if it's something that might be going deeper, and like say the example we were using before where your mind kind of counteracts and
Hmm.
sort of does the
Right.
opposite to it, it sort of helps really bring it up back up. Like
Okay.
it helps keep that level. So with some of the things, like there was something that I was experiencing for myself, like with my mind, there was a certain chronic pain that I was experiencing for several years. With my mind, I would manifest it to go away overnight. And then with that same mind, I would be wondering if it's ever going to come back. Well, like clockwork, a couple of weeks later, it would come back. And then with my mind, I would manifest it to go away and it'd be absolutely pain free. And then my mind would put it back in my body. So then I thought I need to do something a little bit deeper to really counteract my mind doing the opposite to it all the time. So I did one of those activations for myself, and I actually just saved it as a screen, home screen or whatever on your mobile
Yeah.
phone.
Yeah.
Every time you get the phone, you look at it and it just reminds you to stay in that mindset, really focuses your mind on staying healthy rather than illness coming back in. So
So it could
it
almost
just,
be used as a maintenance type thing. You look at it,
yeah,
your mind receives it, but then if you keep going back and looking at it, it kind of keeps you in the right place.
it keeps focusing your awareness or your attention to the things that you want rather than um wandering by itself and doing its own thing that it's used to do, because like it's like a muscle that you're training. With some things you get used to it, and like after a while, even with this one, I won't need it anymore because it will just become natural. But it's a muscle, so if your muscle is used to jumping back into negative or back into the lack, well, you kind of need something to help train it so that then the muscle memory remains in the vibration where you want it to be.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Okay, so you also told me during our first conversation that most people work with you for like 4 months or more after the initial activation because your mentoring helps them to work through what exactly?
So with when I'm mentoring someone, apart from doing multiple activations regularly,
Right,
and it's not say like when we do a one-off activation, it's just focused on one thing. There's just not enough time to do anything else. And with the activations, I like to keep frequencies as clear as possible so that they're not all mixed in together for different unrelated subjects.
right,
But with the mentorship, it's not just the activations that I do for someone. I'm actually teaching someone how to use their mind to call in their desires themselves so that they don't need me. I'm just helping them from both sides. I'm helping them within to make things a little bit easier and quicker, but I also teach them how to create their own life using their mind themselves. So that starts with purging the old beliefs, purging the old ways, the old understanding of how things work, how they relate to things, how triggers work, how emotions work, and really neutralize and like have that clear baseline to start working from. And then we add skills on how to actually use mind for imagination and how to detach from things, how to create things, how to be in that vibration, how to remain in that vibration, how to really call in the desires so that you're not forcing things to happen. And most importantly, also how to recognize when things come to you, because often what happens is we might be trying to manifest something, but then an opportunity comes our way, and then our ego gets in the way and says, no, I don't want it this way, I want it this way. Like, for example, um, you want to create $100,000, but you want it from an online coaching business. But here's an opportunity that comes to you to buy a local cleaning business. You hate cleaning, so you say, no, that's not for me because I hate doing this. I hate cleaning and I don't want a physical business. Well, that might have been the opportunity for $100,000 this year, while a
yeah,
coaching business might take 3 years to get to that point. So you're kind of like self-sabotaging there yourself. So it's also recognizing when things are coming to you and really keeping ego separate from what's truly coming to you from the source, from the overall consciousness, the
right,
information that's meant for you, and the business or whatever work is meant for you, how creation comes to you.
sure. Okay, so I guess my follow-up question to that would be, so someone hates cleaning, doesn't want to buy a cleaning business, maybe even has some fear around having to, buy physical products and things that they have to own for their business and maintain for their business and everything, because that's additional cash layout, right? Maybe there's a whole set of stories there. Is it possible that what they are repelling is related to, let me start over. Maybe is it possible that it could have come to them a different way if their stories were different?
Oh, maybe. Like because we're creating something from our mind all the time. So, like for example, if your mind is constantly saying, oh, please don't make it be a physical business, or I hate cleaning, I would never do this for a living or whatever. So maybe they do call it in that way, but they're also calling in a certain amount of money.
Right.
But you never know a bigger picture either. So it might come to you that way, so that the things come to you, like if there's something you don't want to happen, you can almost guarantee that it will happen to you. And the reason it
Yeah.
happens to you is for you to clear the emotion and the trigger that is around that. So there are only two reasons why something would come to you. Either it's a part of the unfolding, so it's a part of the bigger picture,
Right.
or it's something for you to clear from your body because there is that negative energy associated with it or associated with that story in your body. And the universe has given it to you as an opportunity to clear it so
Right.
that you no longer have that trigger, you no longer get trapped in that story. So you never know, like maybe that cleaning business is a part of something that needs to be cleared for them, and or it could be a part of the great unfolding. You never know. Like for example, they devote to it, they go through with it, and then before they even have to do any serious cash outlay or whatever for that business, an investor comes in, and or like a large global company decides that this is what they want to acquire, and you get bought out within weeks of owning the company, and you literally
I
had to do
gotcha.
nothing.
I gotcha. But you never
Or
got to that point because you said no from the beginning.
that's right. Or maybe you meet someone. Maybe there is a partner for the business, and then that partner has connections, and then those connections will open up doors for you for your coaching business. Like
Right.
you never know how things are related, but if you don't take up that opportunity, um, something else will come in later, but it could be like years down the track. You don't know how quickly or how long it's going to take. So I'm going to say something else around that. Something about devoting. It'll come to me.
Well, I think that this is a really important point too, because when you were speaking just now, it occurred to me that a lot of my relationship clients, one of their biggest issues is not that they don't have good relationships or the opportunity for good relationships. It's that the relationships aren't what they think should be happening. So
Mm,
people who want a romantic partner have a vision of what that romantic partner has to look like and what they have to do for a job and, their exact age and, all of that stuff. And by having a thought of, I don't want, the guy who works on cars, I don't want the guy who's 5 years older than I am, I don't want whatever, they're actually probably bringing to themselves someone who could love them very deeply,
mhm.
but who they're going to reject and say that the universe has not brought them what they asked for because they have that one thing that they're so focused on not wanting that they've missed the opportunity that's come to them.
That's right. And that all comes from ego because that comes from a personal preference. Once again, if that person woke up tomorrow and they have they can't remember anything about relationships, they can't remember what relationships they have had in the past and what they enjoyed, what they didn't enjoy. They can't remember what they've seen in movies of what their ideal relationship looks like. It's really a clean slate. And here comes a person who really makes them feel content. Well, they'll probably enjoy being with that person regardless of the list of qualities that that person should have.
Yeah.
So it's really a in cases like that, it's really clearing whatever stories come up around a person, around the relationship, around the list of qualities and the desires in that person, and really neutralizing the thoughts, like everything around that. And then seeing the opportunities as they come. Because oh, that's what I was going to say. When an opportunity comes for something, you also got to assess, did it come from ego? Like, did you go looking for that opportunity? Did you try to create it? Or did it
Mhm.
truly come out of nowhere to you, so that it's really like it's meant for you because it came specifically to you, asking you to devote to that opportunity.
Yeah.
So say a person, you meet someone in the shop and you just just start talking, and then that person invites you out. Well, that kind of, you couldn't have planned that. You didn't go to the shop trying to figure out which guy am I gonna talk to, which guy is gonna ask me out. Like, it really was a random thing. So
Right.
in a case like that, yeah, take on that opportunity because you don't know. Maybe this is the person of your dreams. Maybe that person has a friend. Maybe that person is going to take you on to an event, and then you'll meet someone at an event. Like, you don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So one final question about this train of thought. Um, can you actually like bring something towards you that is exactly what you wanted, and then at the last minute lose it because your ego gets in the way?
Yes. I have done that many times. Yep.
Yes, 100%, right?
Okay, so I've got just two examples that come to my mind straight away around my work. As I mentioned, I have a career in telecommunications, so I actually have a physical business as well. And that's a local telecommunications business. So for that, every now and then I'd play around and I try to create certain clients or certain work that comes to me. So one day I was creating a job in my mind. It was something completely random. I never expected it really to happen. And that's the key. You don't actually expect it to happen. You just enjoy having it. And it was so random and specific. It had to be a very last minute thing. It had to be something that I was charging more than someone else for. Like, in other words, I would get paid higher for it. Had to be something through like a contract company, not a random person. And it had to be something that was actually already allocated to someone else, but at the last minute, for some reason, they didn't turn up, or they canceled the job and they were urgently looking for a replacement. Literally an hour later, received a phone call for exactly that job. Last minute, people didn't turn up. They wanted someone to come and do it. I charged more money. They said, just go and do it because I know you do a good job. So like that exactly happened as I saw it in my mind. And then another one, I was creating certain work in certain location, and what started happening is a whole heap of different jobs started being booked for that location, which is way out of town. And that location is not somewhere I go very often, especially so many different random jobs from different random companies. And then what happened was I then was trying to create certain things happening on a certain day or by a certain day, or trying to bundle things into a certain trip. And by doing that, it just all fell apart. And like,
Yeah.
I didn't have any of those jobs coming back in for like 2 weeks. And then half of them came in, half of them didn't come in. So like with my mind, I kind of like stuffed it all up.
Yep.
But so
Yeah.
yeah, but
Because I have an example that came to me while you were speaking, and it was so I still work a 9 to 5 job in addition to the podcast and my coaching. And I had met someone at a conference, just, very brief, sat next to each other during a grab and go lunch and never thought I'd see them again. Next thing I know, they're reaching out to me, asking me if I'd like to interview for a position.
mhm.
And it was exactly what I wanted to do at even more money than I wanted to be able to do it at. And I was completely detached because I knew that they wanted someone in person in the office. And I'd already kind of committed to this idea of moving to help out with my dad because of his health issues. And so I told them, I said, I would love to. I don't know that you would want me to apply because of this situation. And they were like, oh, that's not a problem. We'll figure it out. And as
Mhm.
soon as it became a possibility, my head started going, well, what if this and what if that and what if the other thing? And even though they asked me to interview and I was one of the final candidates, in the end, the whole job blew up and it wasn't even available anymore. Something happened with the budget and they decided not to fill it and it went away. And I had the thought afterward, if you hadn't been so uptight about it, it probably would have worked.
Yeah, there could be two things there. So one hand, in a case like that, your job is to devote to the next step and not think 100 steps ahead.
Yeah.
So in other words, like the monkey chatter starts happening, starts coming up, and that's when you neutralize it. So you neutralize emotions, you neutralize the monkey chatter, you basically get into that neutral place and devote to the next step. In other words, your next step was to reply to the job, agreeing
Right.
to an interview. Then the next step might have been going to an interview or whatever. So like you just devote to the next step, because once again, you don't know the big picture. You already were committed to a move, and that was something you're also manifesting. Well, your 3D reality took care of itself. So that opportunity took care of itself and got cancelled
Yeah.
so that you can continue with that thing. So once again, being neutral about it, not sort of thinking that, oh, you stuffed it up or whatever. Maybe that was meant to happen. Maybe that there was a reason for that. Maybe it was a reason for you two to reconnect, because there could be a remote position happening at some point, but that person now
Sure.
remembers you. You've already interviewed. Maybe other people have already looked at your credentials or whatever. So now they are on board with it. And maybe next time the job is not even advertised. Maybe they select from who they already had. So maybe you had to go through this experience for you to be in the system for something to come up in the future. You don't know. So your job is to be neutral about any possibility and just to devote to the next step, whatever step comes to you.
That's an amazing analysis, because I didn't think about the second half of that possibility.
Mhm.
Julia, this is so good. So let's start with, tell people how they can work with you.
Okay, they can work with me in a number of ways. We can do one-off activations, which is a 60-minute call to really talk through whatever is coming up for them. It's usually like one issue or maybe a couple of things that are related, and then I do an activation for them. Or I've got like a mini program where we talk specifically about emotions that come up around holidays. So around the dynamics between family members, so that you can enjoy the holidays and not choose whether to go and not go somewhere, or be really in that low vibration and really feel bad about talking to certain family members, which come up to, for all of us. And so it's really focused on helping people with the emotions around that. My long-term mentorship program is 4 months, and that's when we really go deep through everything. We do activations, we do emotion clearing, we do creation using our mind, manifesting anything and everything. It's not limited to business or relationships. Whatever you want to create, if you want to work on everything during the program, that's fine. We do everything. If you want to create something specifically in your life, we work on that. So that's 4 months. Obviously, if someone wants to continue, they can continue, but it really takes at least 4 months to go through all of the steps so that you can practice and implement and integrate before you move on to the next stage.
Wonderful. And how do people find you if they want to get in touch?
They can find me on Instagram, and my handle is at alchemyofmarketing_, or my website, www.alchemyofmarketing.com. And also, I've got a freebie for your audience.
Oh,
If
fantastic.
I don't have the links yet, so I'll probably give that to you to put in the show notes.
That's fine.
But I can create an activation for the collective. I love doing those for the collective. So in other words, it's something a little bit more general, but so that everyone can receive a benefit from it. Just depending on if you want to let me know later on what you want that to be on, whether it's on
Absolutely.
relationships like we've discussed heavily, focused heavily
Yes.
on today. Maybe something to really feel self-worth or something like that around relationships, and I'll draw a general one, and your audience can download that through my link.
Wonderful. That is so exciting. Thank you. That's so generous. All
That's
right.
all
Is
right.
there anything you feel like we've missed today that you need to mention before we say goodbye?
I think we've covered pretty much everything, like the cliff notes of everything, definitely.
Wonderful. Well, this has been amazing, Julia. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. And we will look forward to hearing more from you and hopefully get to talk again soon.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. All right. Have a good day. Bye, everybody.